I'd really like to welcome all of you. I'm looking forward to the discussion. Let's open up, let's share, let's be candid.
So leadership through generations, what is your leadership style?
We keep hearing about the glass ceiling and so on and so forth, but we have a responsibility to ensure that just because we walked through the door doesn't mean that we ensure that the door doesn't remain open for the ones who are coming. So my journey has also been because a lot of people have left the door open for me.
When I started my career at KPMG, within sort of 3-4 months of starting to work, I was pregnant with my firstborn. And I was working with the toughest boss. I wrote a report, but I'm naive and I walk all the way up and she tells me, you write good English, but it's not business English. Whatever we taught you at school doesn't work here. And this is how we write business English. So she took her time. She showed me, and for some reason from then on, she took me under her wing.
So I went to this interview thinking I'm going for a manager interview. And when we finished, I thought they'd tell me, okay, we'll call you after 2 weeks. So the chairman says, actually, we're going to give you the job. And I'm like, okay, good. So you'll be the CEO of this company. Then I looked at him and was like, no, I did not come for a CEO job. That was the imposter syndrome, just telling me you cannot. 2 weeks later, I get back to them and I tell them, okay, I'll take it. But let's discuss, I've never been a CEO. How do I do this job? How do I report to the board? All those things. And he told me, by the way, it's not hard. Just do it. These are the reporting guidelines. This is how the company operates. These are the issues we're having. You can solve them. And for sure, I was able to solve them. And for me, the lesson here is that we women are always thinking we cannot do it.
As you grow in your career and into leadership positions, what's the role of ethics?
Your ethics and integrity is actually what guides you. One, it'll help you ask the right questions. For younger people, I say, please start asking questions now, because it's only experience that teaches us how to do it with elegance. Because when you don't do it elegantly, you offend everyone, even the person who hasn't done anything wrong. But the older I get, the clearer that feels to me.
As female leaders, don't accept unethical practices. Just have a stand, and nobody will come to you with unethical practices.
What is the gap that we see that perhaps we need to start thinking about and working on?
I do think there's a lack of care generally, and particularly in corporate. I do really care about our people, because I genuinely, honestly believe, and if maybe one day I'll do a research, the people who are cared for and nurtured do better. But somehow caring and nurturing is a hard thing to do. And I think as women, we're shying away from doing it because we will be labeled.
The biggest one of them being the stereotyping in women. That stereotyping has actually caused women to accept of things that they should not be accepting. I hear the stereotype, but I think it's understanding our value. I really think that's where it's at. Because when you understand your value, and this is both professionally and personally, then you know what to ask for.
So the gap actually as women is both acknowledging and coaching, not mentoring, coaching around the value of remuneration in cash, because it has such a long-term impact on yourself and your family that gap earlier on, sometimes you never make it up. Huh? But you continue to be impactful, senior, leading things. You don't always know if you're at the bottom of the range, and quite often you're not at the bottom, but you're not at the top. You're not the outsized earner.
The gap I see is women were not curious enough. Let's just be a little bit more curious and brave and accept the answer could be not what you want, but gives you an answer and gives you feedback that helps you to move forward. So I think that's one of the things that we really do need to do. Mentorship and coaching and all of that. We talk about that a lot. Jennifer, what is that for you?
if you don't leave the door open and keep going back to pull in other women, then we are not going to grow as women leaders.
I think we're good at letting the women in, and then we don't invite them to dance.
Yes, you leave the door open and you bring as many people as you can along with you, but the expectations are not any less or any softer because we're dealing with women. The world's not going to give us a pass. So I think we have to be tough enough to be able to compete. We influence things, we shape things, we change things. So if we're not keeping the door open, if we're not mentoring, if we're not coaching the men and the women, 15 years time, my daughter was still telling me it's only men at the top. It just can't continue that way.
Give ourselves a round of applause because that was such a great conversation.